So you're out there in the trenches and you're running your business, and I don't know, maybe I'm old, but I get a bit sick of all this crap that you see online about creating the empires, and I don't know, it just seems a bit tiresome. And I think once you've been around a little bit, you kind of start to see what actually matters. Today I'm joined by Brad Giles. Brad's got a new book, Bigger Isn't Better, Better is Better. Brad, firstly, welcome to This Is Business.
Glenn, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. And what the people can't see is the amazing view that you've got here.
I know. We've done a few episodes here in Perth in the suite while I'm here, and it is a cracking view. Now, so we share the same, I think, publicist, and there's, Scott he's learning. He's a bit slow, but he's learning. I probably say, 20% of the pictures that he sends me. And he's doing his job and all that. But for me, I don't need another property guy or gal on the podcast. I don't need another financial advisor on the podcast. I don't need all this stuff. But you stuck out to me, bigger isn't better, because my mantra, when you go to conferences and stuff and everyone's like, what's the next big thing? What are you working on? I was like, nothing. My whole, the start of last year, my mantra was do less, do it better and make more money. That's just my vibe. So that's why you're sitting with me doing a podcast, is because I like the cut of your jib.
Well, flattery will get you everywhere.
It will.
But I mean, we were chatting beforehand, and this book is written from the blood and sweat and tears, metaphorically, of myself, having started 6 businesses, worked to build with leadership teams in mid-market companies, maybe 1,000 business plans, and really spent my whole life in one way or another working with entrepreneurs, building great businesses. But, often people climb the ladder of success only to get to the top and then say to themselves, I think I've put it on the wrong wall. What the book cover doesn't say is bigger isn't better, smaller is better. So I'm not suggesting anyone should resist their ambition. Go for it. Go hard. Go as good as you can. But if your goal is to put another 0 on your revenue, and that's your primary purpose in life, to go from 3 million to 30 million or whatever is the thing, well, that isn't necessarily better, and there'll be sacrifices along the way.
But that just gets wrapped up with ego.
That is completely ego.
At the end of the day, I don't actually give a crap as long, and we'll probably get into it, but my whole thing is I'm running a lifestyle business now, and I just do it. Hopefully my team can earn a good salary and a good income. I can have a good, enjoyable career in life and take money off the table along the way.
And that's fine if you're in your situation. But I'm trying to speak to people, the version of you 20 years ago as well, and say this is a book about mindset and the mindset of compounding. So how do I compound a better team? How do I compound better customers, a better offering, better financials, so that I can compound a better life by design?
Well, my name is Glenn James, and you are listening to This Is Business with Brad Giles. Let's do a show about business right now. Brad, I'm going to pluck this chicken a couple of ways. I'm going to first get you to explain the first line in the book. You wanted freedom, so why does it feel like a trap? I'll get you to explain some thoughts around that. And then secondly, I'm going to ask you what you're doing today, and then we might do a bit of an autopsy of your career and business life and pull out some gems along the way. I will say we've only just met. I'm pretty chill. I don't like sending you pre-lodged questions. I just want to have an organic chat.
Yep.
I don't love the preloaded questions with podcast interviews because I don't want to ask questions that I know the answer to because I read it in the book. So that's why I want to add value. But my challenge to you, if I say anything and you call BS on it, just throw it out because I'm here to learn as well. And I think iron does sharpen iron. And I think for business owners out there who are in startup, growth or maturity, I hope they can at least take one thing away from this chat. That's what I'm planning to do, to take one thing away and implement in my own business, because I don't run a podcast about money. I don't write books about money. First and foremost, I'm Glenn James. I run a business. So take all that crap wherever you want, my friend.
Well, you should expect nothing but a BS meter from me, first of all. I think that I'd probably react to that, and I'm holding your questions in the back of my head, but I'd react to that by starting off with, this is a no BS book, right? Now, why could I say that? A lot of people write books because they want to become professional speakers.
Yeah.
Right? Their goal, and good on them, their goal is to become a professional speaker, potentially in America if they really do well, because the sums of money are extravagant and they can have a fantastic life. I go on stage, I speak for an hour, I get 30 grand or whatever it is. Good on them. I got no interest in that whatsoever. So that means that I don't need to try to appeal to the widest audience possible. There are significant points in the book where I'm kind of having a crack at someone, in fact, or maybe not someone, but at an industry or a section, because I see it through the lens of the small to medium business owner, which is my entire life. And I don't care if corporations ever engage me. I've got no interest in it. So one of the key things in the book is, what's the difference between a corporation and an owner-led company, right? And that brings me back to the beginning of your question. You wanted freedom, so why does it feel like a trap? So if you're learning everything from people whose primary job is to try to get a job as a speaker, and the biggest audience and the most lucrative audience is people who work in corporations, you might be doing things that might not work best in your 10-person, 20, 50, 100-person organisation.
And I want to call out as well that I didn't actually tell you that you probably need to know. One of the reasons that you are here as well is, my business podcast, This Is Business. Yeah. I'm not trying to be the next Diary the CEO, Hormazi, doing this huge stuff. I'm talking to the guy who's got 2 vans on the road, who's a Sparky. I'm talking to the gal who's out there and she wants to start a marketing business. I'm talking to the people in small business in the trenches.
Totally.
Because I don't need another podcast out there interviewing leaders who command 60K from a keynote go get that from Diary the CEO.
Yeah.
This is for the tradies and the solopreneurs and the SMEs out there in the trenches.
I call it owner-led companies.
Yep.
Now, that's important. One of the points of feedback that I've had has been people saying to me, I've never felt that a book was personally written for me. It's almost like you were talking to me. I mean, maybe I'm getting better as a writer, who knows, right? But that's nice to hear. But how can I do that? Well, I come back to this problem of freedom. People fall out of love with their business. They feel like they're in a trap. It could be the person with 2 vans, or it could be the person with 20 vans or 200, right? What I'm trying to do is say there is a corporation and there is an owner-led company. Now, what's really important about that? Imagine that you're walking down a path. It's a long path. At the end of that path is shareholder value. Now, we'll emulate that path. So there's 2 paths. We can go down that path or that path. The first path is that of a corporation, shareholder value at the end. Now, along the path is very high hedges On the left-hand side is the board, and on the right-hand side is the shareholders. So they make you stick to that path. You can't veer off and come up with crazy ideas. The second path has no hedges.
Yeah, ask Steve Jobs how that went, round one.
That I'm going to come straight back to that. So there's no hedges.
Yeah.
And then what you can do as you walk along the path is you can pick up these nice, shiny little objects, right? Oh, there's no one holding me accountable. There's no system of board and shareholders to make me stick to it. Now, the corporation is a very, very effective system, but you wanted freedom, so you got freedom. So when you're walking down that path toward shareholder value, what happens? You start chasing all these shiny objects and you don't actually end up where you wanted to be and why you started in the first place. Now, I'm going to go back to Steve Jobs because you raised him. There's a guy called Mike Markkula. Ever heard of him?
No.
So he was the first shareholder in Apple. He was the first CEO and first chairman of the board of Apple.
Wow.
At one point, he owned 30% of the company. And there was a day, Steve had a reputation, we all know that, for being, I guess what I would call an impulsive risk taker. He's always getting upset and doing crazy things. Okay, we know that. And this got quite frustrating. And so Mike said, look, we need to get, and I quote, adult supervision. I can't operate with this person. He's impulsive.
Yeah, I'm trying to run a business here and we've got old mate, yeah.
He's undisciplined. He's impatient. Like, we're trying to, like, now, he'd come from corporations and he's actually a fantastically successful person. So they get in John Scully. You know the story, right? John Scully, marketing, head of marketing at Pepsi, comes in and then he turns Apple into a corporation, right? They've got more products than you know what to do with. Steve Jobs once said in a meeting, there was so many products, I didn't even know all of them.
Yeah.
And so he cut it down to 4 products. And the printer people just about fell off their chairs because that's where all the profit sat. But Steve turned it back into an owner-led company. He went away, he learned how to be patient and disciplined, how to be a better entrepreneur, and then he came back and he was able to turn it back into an owner-led company. And I put it to you that we're still seeing, or shareholders are still seeing, the positive impacts of his return today.
What would you say you do as your day job at the moment? Would you say I'm a business coach, or like how would you phrase that? Like, what are you doing of a day?
Yeah, business coach is something in Australia that's got a good and bad reputation depending on who you speak to. I would say that I help owner-led companies to build a great business. And what does a great business look like? Well, it's kind of thematically framed in the book: better customers, better team, better offering, etc., better financials. But it's hard, right? So structurally, what does that mean? I've got a few coaches here in the West Coast and the East Coast, and we just do one single thing, which is strategic plan offsites with that person's leadership team and monthly coaching in between. It's one single program. It's all that we do. I've been doing it for 15 years now, and it just gives me great joy.
And this is, I guess, the dance, like we talked about, we do this show for, the tradies or businesses that might, like I've got a team of 5 people, right?
Yep.
If I did want to turn it up to 11 and turn that 5 into 50, there is that dance that will need some type of corporate governance. How do you, grow? And to be honest, I probably need to step into another period of growth.
Yep.
Like, how do you frame it so we're not ending up with handcuffs, hating life as we grow?
I think that it is contextual to the size of the business because you've framed it that way. So if you are a solopreneur, it's just you and you got a van and you're going out there doing the thing, well, it's a different answer compared to...
do what you want, you own your job, do okay, go home, all good.
But it's still the same. Like, do you have a plan that you believe in? Do you have a strategy that would differentiate you from the competition? And if you've got a team, like, do you actually like showing up to work and in interacting with them? Or do you dread Mondays? Because if you dread Mondays, it's a great recipe to fall out of love with the business, and then a business creates the greatest return on invested capital of most of the opportunities you'll have in your life. So you want to make that thing work. You want to fall in love with it so that you can actually get that and then build the financial freedom side of things.
Yeah, so I'm like, because I want to really put myself in the position of our listeners, and often it is similar to my vibe because like attracts like.
Yeah.
Where do you think, if businesses are in that growth curve, where do you think they go wrong?
Well, I think there's many, many, many ways to go wrong. I think that
do you build it then they come, or do you or try and organically crack it to lower risk?
Yeah, there's a few bits to unpick there.
Yeah.
I think that everybody needs a plan. You may recall the fighter Mike Tyson saying everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
Now, there was a journalist who interviewed him on the way to the fight where they were talking about Evander Holyfield, who was famous for his planning and preparation. And so he goes, like the tough guy, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And now it's become a part of the vernacular. But he lost that fight because Evander Holyfield had better planning. And then at the rematch, he lost that fight as well, because even though he bit Evander Holyfield's ear off. Now, you can't build a plan that's going to say, and then when Tyson bites off my ear, I will react that way, right? But planning matters. So I think that it doesn't matter where you're at, you got to have a plan.
Yeah, when I talk to the Money Show, I tell people have a plan, however small.
Correct.
And, and then the years go by and you might be running your business and you kind of don't have a plan. Well, we're coming to the end of 2025 now. So the challenge to people listening, what do you want out of your business 2026 and beyond? When you, do you have any particular industries that you work with in the main, or any type of business that kind of is founder-led? Or
We're in the strategy and management business.
Yeah.
So we have companies who are plumbing companies, blockchain companies, mining companies, you name it, like all sorts of companies.
Yeah. When someone wanted to, or if they want to create a plan for next year, what are some fundamentals, building blocks that they should consider when planning, if they've gone adrift and haven't planned for a couple of years, or they want to, I don't know. And the reason I say this, I often ask my team, like, what metrics do we want as a team? Well, I don't know. And we've just started now doing monthly meetings showing the team the income.
Yeah.
Just as a bit of a disclosure to the team, this is where it's coming from, more out of personal interest for them. But in terms of business planning, how does a business owner set a plan, even with their leaders, and what things do they really need to look at?
Look, there's an old saying, if you don't know where you're going, you're probably going to get there, right? So it's, let's assume that you want to grow. And grow might mean grow revenue or grow profit, but there's some kind of form of growth that you want to do. Well, what do we need to get there? If you don't work on it, then the market will attack you, right? Your competitors will come in, or inflation, something's going to happen. So you need to have some idea of what are we going to do that's better. In a bit larger and more sophisticated business, we would be pushing for strategy, right? We would be saying, do you understand what strategy is? Strategy is not execution or goal setting. Strategy is the development of a unique and valuable position in the market that is different from competitors, right? So here's the Glenn James podcast. It's all good and well. What's different to the alternate that a person could listen to? And how do we, over 1, 2, 3 years, develop that to be more unique relative to the core listener in this example? And how do we build it to be more valuable to those listeners? And that speaks to the better customers and the better offering that I talk about in the book. How do you extract more long-term value from customers? Well, you got to do a pretty good job, right? You can't just rock up and be commoditized by the market. And that's what many people do, and they wonder why they're in a job making kind of or a business job making kind of roughly what they were making before, except they've got tons of additional risk.
And they're not getting a reward of that risk with the profit.
Well, if they're getting profit, it's bugger all.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they're not making their effort count for the most.
So when strategizing, because I actually talk about this a lot, there's, people, and we all can get guilty of it. We worry about looking at all this stuff and they end up just being tactics. And tactics can change quarter on quarter. The strategy needs to be set. And if we need to change the tactics or whatever word you want to use, that can be agile and on an operational on the ground, like with sub-teams, right?
Think about Nespresso.
Yeah.
Nespresso, it's just instant coffee, right? But they've built a strategy over time with the help from our good friend George Clooney, right? But they've built a strategy with pods and machines and a lack of interoperability and retail stores that's very hard to match. So when you think about Moccona instant coffee and you think about Nespresso, it's probably coming from a similar, if not the same farm, but they're creating more value. No matter how you define value, they're creating more value. They're able to command a higher price or profit per kilo of beans or whatever it is they do. And then you think about IKEA and you think, if I was going to open a furniture shop to compete with IKEA, the strategy of differentiation that they've had for so long is very, very hard to copy. And I reckon every business in the world has the opportunity for a strategy to differentiate.
Yeah. We'll take a break, and when we get back, we will continue the chat. We'll be back right after this.
If you're after personal financial advice, don't get it from a podcast. But if you want guidance tailored to your situation, head to moneypodcast.com.au and click Get Help. We'll connect you with one of our trusted professionals, financial advisors and mortgage brokers, who work with people right across Australia. No matter where you are, they can help. Now, before we get back to the show, a quick reminder to protect your financial life. That means having income protection sorted. It means having death cover if there's any debt or dependents relying on you. It means getting your personal insurance in order. Most people insure their car, they insure their house, but what about themselves? Sky Wealth, who support this podcast, are specialist financial advisors who can help you get the right cover in place. Their advice is often more comprehensive and better value than going direct through your super. Book a complimentary 15-minute chat at sky.com.au. That's skye.com.au, and they'll point you in the right direction.
Rightio, we're back. One thing in your book, it's not all about the business, because a lot of our businesses, right, it's funny, and I've said this to my team before, it's like a lot of team members, and there could be some people in my team who aren't this, but conceptually, employees will go to work and go home. They've got family, they've got friends, they've got other stuff. But for the business owners out there, we are in business mode 25/8. Like, I can be relaxed on a beach on a holiday, and because I've got the clear air of, no Slack messages or emails, that's giving me clear air to think about the business. Like, a business owner is a different breed, right?
Yep.
And we take that home with us. What can happen is, if our life's a mess, the business will end up being a mess. Maybe. Now, I went through a rough trot last year. Some personal stuff was happening. The business suffered. The business was on life support for 12 months. And it's taken about 12 months to recover and get back to normal. So you can't, when you're the business owner and you've got a team, like, my priority is to make sure payroll gets met every week. That's like the first priority.
Yeah.
But if my life's a mess, there's a high chance the business may get messy. So talk to us about when you coach clients and some of the writing in the book about this building a life by design.
Yeah, so there's only one you. If the business is suffering, then you will suffer. If your personal life is suffering, then the business will suffer. There is no distinction between the two other than what we create. I think I go back to the first line of the book that we spoke about before. Why does it feel like a trap? Because why did you start your business? I put it to you that most people start their business for an undefined definition of freedom.
Yeah. Or it's kind of the two things. There's like, I want my own control, I'll do it all. I can work wherever I want, wherever I want, and they end up working everywhere, every time. Or it's probably not as popular in terms of what you see out there, but someone does this little side project and it explodes and they find themselves, oh, I'm now a business owner. Woke up, like I think there's two forks in the road.
The second one, what were they doing? What was their day job when they started the side thing? Because I reckon they felt somewhat trapped in that job.
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
You know, they were like, I don't
I
necessarily
want to make leather wallets and sell them online, and then it exploded. So it might be a passion project that exploded, or it's a side hustle because I don't love doing my day job.
I'm yet to meet an entrepreneur who, when we drill down and down and down, there isn't some kind of freedom of creativity, financial freedom, freedom of time, whatever it is, that was there. And that's the thing, right? The book is about what is your definition. Like you got to figure out what is it for you, but have a mindset. Don't chase another zero. Chase a better business and a better life. So coming back to your question, if you feel trapped, my thesis through the book is that there are doom loops that we create, right? An example is a bigger team doom loop. If you're chasing growth for the sake of growth, like we've just got to get to 10 team members or 50 or whatever it is, and like you are enamored with getting bigger but not better, what happens is that you hire what we call B and C players, right? People who they're not really good enough for the job, but you just wanted to get them quick so that you could keep focusing on that extra zero. What happens then? They form dysfunctional and unproductive teams because they're B and Cs, right? They don't work well together. And then what happens is that they're less effective and they're less efficient. We get less profit per fixed cost. And how do we answer that? With a bigger mindset, we go back to the top where we go, we just got to add on more people. So you get into these doom loops over time. And I know because I'm a freaking expert at it. I've done it a lot and I've seen people do it a lot, and it doesn't need to be that way. So the inverse of a doom loop is a flywheel where we hire A players, right? We take the time, we go, who are the people that I actually want to sit next to and interact with every day? And we look for soul. So a soulful business, they're more efficient, they're more effective, we get a higher profit per fixed cost, and we can then go back to the top of the flywheel, and we're able to then say, okay, well, let's look for the next A player. But also you get a reputation for a great place to work. So you think about these doom loops and these flywheels across, that was better teams, better customers, better offerings, better financials. So when you get these flywheels turning and you stop focusing on bigger, it invites the opportunity to build a better life by design. So what is the life that I want to design on my terms? If you're doing all the hard work, I kind of put it to you, you somewhat deserve the opportunity to do that and not be trapped. And so what does it look like? It doesn't mean doing bugger all. It means having a fulfilling and challenging life.
So if someone was doing an autopsy of their current business and they had some employees at the moment and they want to have a better business for the next year and ongoing, what do you think is the most mission critical part of the business to focus on the team or the product or the customer experience?
I think team is there first for a reason.
Yeah.
In all of the conversations I've had over many years, I reckon 70% of them have been about people challenges or people problems. So you got to get, Jim Collins said, you got to get the right people on the bus doing the right things the right way. Doesn't matter how big your bus is. So
and there's only so many seats on the bus as well.
There are, and that's good.
Yeah.
So are the people in your team running in front of you? Are they walking behind you, or are you carrying them? If they're not running in front of you, why? Is it that are they the wrong people? Have you not trained them? Another book I wrote was about onboarding. because that's the one of the most important functions that no one cares about. But I think that you got to have a great team first and foremost. And even if you're a tradie with 5 vans, like, are these people running in front of you? Are they walking behind you, metaphorically, or are you carrying them? Because carrying them is very expensive, and even walking behind.
But I would say this to my team every time we kind of get together, and I have said it before, like, number one, this ain't a prison.
Yep.
Like, you don't have to. Anyway, one of our kind of strategy sessions, we came up with our values, and one of the values that we all agreed on was here by choice, own it.
Yep.
Think like, because at the end of the day, I don't want a team member who are talking to customers if they don't like their freaking job.
Here's the dirty little secret.
Ooh, I'll buy it.
Subconsciously or consciously, some of your employees are there because they know that your vision is bigger than their vision ever could be, right? So that when you sort of dwell on that long enough, it introduces a responsibility to build a compelling vision where, whatever it is, where people will want, players will want to work for you. So for us, in my tiny little team, it's a coaching center of excellence. This is, if you want to be the best at the best at the best, like, this is where you come. And we relentlessly focus on that, and that drives our coaches to be the best, and it's a vision.
And I think if you cultivate the team where everyone is operating in their right strengths, it'll become apparent if there's a team member who isn't working in their strengths because everyone else is like crushing it. We actually, for one of the arms of the business, do a 4-day work week. Everyone's online and remote, and it's been more productive and such a win-win.
I'm a bit conflicted on the 4-day work week.
Yeah. What do you think about this?
I think that there's a world of lifters and leaners.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm in the lifters.
Yeah.
And I think that if the job enables you to work 4 days and you are results focused and not action focused or activity focused, it might work really, really well. And I'm sure that it can. But for corporations where they're saying, if we cut out the meetings, then we can be more productive and we can only work 4 days a week. Like, I just think there's a whole dialogue around that I just find a little bit distasteful. And it's like, we are here to do good work. We are here to build great companies. Like, this is your masterpiece.
Yeah, we couldn't have done that without doing the full-on bedrock value session, everyone on board, everyone on this train. We could not have done that.
And you've done the hard work.
Yeah.
And that's good. Across the economy, I'm saying that I don't believe that a 4-day work week is right for everyone.
No, and it's also, I think as well, I would say to the business owners, don't get put off by a bit of ambition with the team members because they might not ever want to start their own business and compete against you. Like, yeah, people are allowed to thrive and have a PAYG salary, and let them.
And a lot of people want to do that. Yeah. I mean, one of the things in the book is about how do we end up in this situation where we feel trapped?
Yeah.
And
do you reckon you've distilled, You've talked about corporate culture and shareholders and all that, but for the run of the mill, we'll take the plumber with the vans or whatever, 20 vans, 200 vans. If a business owner feels trapped in all your experience, is there usually one or two things that have trapped them?
Yeah, it's their mind.
Really? Yep. And is that they can't let go and outsource? Like, they should, yes, you're the business owner, but believe it or not, you can employ someone to raise the invoices so you're not bitching and moaning and doing that on a Saturday. Is it a control thing in their mind?
Have you seen the meme of the donkey tied onto the plastic chair?
No.
Right. So there's a donkey. It's a sparse, like a car park. There's one of those little plastic chairs, weighs like 2 kilos, right? It could blow away in the wind.
Yeah.
There's a donkey tied to it and he's not moving anywhere.
Yeah.
That's mindset, right?
Yeah.
So this is a book about the mindset of how do you end up getting trapped, and the mindset of shifting from chasing another zero to chasing compounding. Like, how do I compound so that I can have a better life by design?
Yeah, because I really think in that mindset thing, I don't know if I'm the business owner in my mindset that could have 50 employees, and I've resolved that.
And that is a journey that you've gone on probably to get to that point.
Yeah, like when I had my financial advice business, I was a bit younger and everyone, you got to do the empire. And I had, I think, 3 or 4 advisors in the office and going to town. It was just like, far out, at what cost? Like, this is just a nightmare.
It's the endless pursuit of more.
Yeah. And I think that's why I resolved, I want to do less, I want to do it better, and I want to make more money.
Yeah, and that's a mindset shift.
Yeah.
At one point, you were focused on growth for growth's sake.
Yeah.
Telling yourself a story, whatever that story was, and then you made that shift. So how do we get into that? My contention is that there's 3 areas.
Yep.
There is the psychology, there is DNA, and then there is society around us. So psychology, there's this thing called the thematic appetition test. And it was Stephen McClelland who designed that, famous psychologist. It puts people into one of 3 camps. And camp number 1 is the camps of needs. Camp number 1 is the need for affiliation. I need to have friends. I need to talk to people or my energy drains. Number 2 is the need for power. So if you've ever heard a person talking about a corporation where people are treated as just a number, or government where people seek power, this is the need for power in play. And then the 3rd is the need for achievement. And most entrepreneurs end up chasing that need for achievement. So that is psychology. And they've done studies where they say that in societies where children's stories activate the need for achievement, there is higher rates of entrepreneurialism.
You're right.
So that's number 1. Number 2 is DNA. There is a large body of evidence around DNA that entrepreneurship is not guaranteed, but if you have a certain recipe, you have a higher chance of risk, a risk appetite, and a lot of other things coming together. And then society is the 3rd one again, how we end up chasing bigger rather than better. Look around us. Everything is about the fastest, the biggest building, the world record for this. So I think that all of these 3 things tell us, just tell us as entrepreneurs, like bigger is better. Like we've got to do this, and we end up trapped.
Yeah. So I guess the challenge to the business owners listening for next year, do you think it's as simple as, so when I do kind of any kind of business stuff with listeners, I go, look at your income pillars, look at where like 80% of the revenue's coming from, make sure that in terms of the energy output from that business, it's tied into that main revenue pillar. Otherwise, why are you expelling 80% of energy on that 20%? Like, I think we're allowed to cut things that aren't working and that are causing drama.
Yeah, the Pareto rule is fantastic. It's a great mindset tool, and I've seen it used in some remarkable ways. Like I love the Pareto rule. But to the first part of your question, like an author should say, "Oh, go and read the book." But I'm even going to go deeper than that. Just say, "What am I doing this for?"
Yeah.
Just start by saying, "Is this what I signed up for? Is this like the risk on entrepreneurs is ridiculous." Especially some of the trades that you mentioned, plumbers, sparkies, like it's preposterous relative to what is expected. So it's not that you shouldn't have a business and take that risk, but you got to understand, why am I doing this? What does a better business look like so I can live my one and only life? It's like, this is your piece of artwork that defines your life. Make it a cracking one.
You talk about, I guess, in finishing, because we need to wrap this up, you talk about, designing your life. Do you think it's fraught to have a look at your personal life? It's like, we want to achieve this in our personal life, needs this amount of income, and back engineer it in the business? Or are we creating something, putting strain on a business that is artificial and it isn't ready to produce that kind of revenue? Like, is there it's kind of chicken before the egg type question. Like, would you think we back engineer and build our business goals based on we need at home, or maybe I'm answering it myself, the business should stand up by itself commercially in its own right, pay your market rate for your job, and as a business owner, you take profit. Like, maybe, is that the way to do it? Or depending, do you back engineer the numbers from your own personal goals?
Well, it's got to work.
Yeah.
We got a customer that we work with, lovely guy, bought a Lamborghini. Sits on the P&L. He's got to pay for it. Was it too soon or was it not too soon? I'm not there to judge. But you can't argue with maths at the same time, right? The second
Are these big, like, Lambos? Like, do you reckon it would be a finance thing on the business, or did he write a check?
I'm hesitant. I don't want to speak out of school.
Yeah.
But I think it might be financed.
Yeah.
Right. But look, I don't want to curb anyone's ambition.
Knock yourself out.
Any means.
Buy that Lambo.
Go for it.
Give me a ride.
Give me a ride. If that's your ambition and that's going to give you a better life, that's awesome. But I want to really just scratch the surface of that question, right? Because the Better Financials chapter, Better Financials, this is the fourth part. What I'm saying is that many people have money as a goal instead of money as a resource. So you've got to, before you talk about what you asked, you've got to think about, do I look at money as being a goal or a resource? Now, a goal is I got to get $10,000 passive income per month. That's going to be the goal that I'm seeking. What I'm advocating in the book is that rather than thinking about money as a goal, or I've got to have 10 million net worth, money is a resource. That means for every $100 that I invest in the business or out of the business, it has a purpose and a job, and I got to turn that into $120. And then on the next spin, I got to turn that into 144 and so forth, or whatever the rate of return is. But I come back to your business. If you're running it okay even, it's probably the greatest return on invested capital that you can get anywhere. So you've got to make it work well so that you can produce sufficient cash to reinvest into the business, to live the lifestyle that you want. And the third pillar is to build wealth outside of the business.
Yeah. And that's often a big trap. And I'm putting together a bit of a keynote for business owners about, people think, I'm going to retire, my business is worth this. Well, darling, what happens in 25 years when the market's moved and your business is not worth squat? You haven't taken money off the table and built independent wealth.
Yeah. So the thing that I've seen...
that's just risk management.
It's risk management, right? I've seen people who've invested a lot of money in inventory, right? And then we need more inventory to fund the thing. But it's not a broad perspective. Yes, the market can change, but in your investing world, you would say the first word would be diversified. Yeah, property, stocks, etc. Well, I'm advocating that, you've got to build independent wealth outside of the business, and that with a money as a resource mindset has a job to do in the same way that your money inside of the business. But there's no point having a massively valued business and live in the lifestyle of a pauper, and any money that comes out of the business gets re-churned back in, because then you feel trapped.
Yeah. Well, lots to think about. Time flies when you're having fun. Anything, maybe last words in finishing that, because it's certainly given me so much to think about, particularly about next year. Anything that maybe you want to say that I haven't asked you to really encourage business owners or yet to be business owners with, we'll say not at maturity in the business, but in startup or that growth curve to really?
You want a business that compounds. You don't want to chase bigger for the sake of it. Because so what if you impress your neighbours who you don't care about? So what if you impress the people that don't really know you? Or, if that little angel on your shoulder says, oh, you're a big shot now. Now people will think you're a big shot. No one gives a... What matters is, what is the purpose of my money earning potential? What is the purpose of my business? Can I architect a life by design that is healthy so that you can have a health span, living as long and as good as you can, wealthy to your earlier point, so that you can build wealth independent as well as inside the business, wise, happy, personal fulfillment rather than being a miserable bugger who owns a business, and then great family. You are the architect of your family. You don't run the family in the same way, but you have a very influential role if you're a business owner.
Now you're, I know you're collecting children. Are any of them at, over 18 yet? What are their ages?
The problem is when you got a few children, I got 4. The problem is that every year you're like, how old is that one now?
Yeah.
So my apologies in advance.
Or is there any under 18?
Yeah, there's 2 under 18.
Yeah. So are the ones in adulthood, do you think they'll head towards entrepreneurship like their father? Do you think it's in the blood?
Yeah, I've done a lot of work. I talk about this in the book. I think that entrepreneurship is definitely in the blood.
Because I'm 3rd generation self-employed from my dad's side.
Yep, so am I. So here's the thing, right? I was adopted and I met my mum when I was 26. I was on my 3rd business by that point. I grew up, I didn't even know someone who was a manager, let alone a entrepreneur. No one who owned a business, no one in a senior position. In fact, my adopted dad was a public servant of all things. But it was just in my blood, and I was just like, it didn't make any sense at all to anyone around me. Like, what the hell are you doing?
Gosh.
But I was 16 and I started my first business doing cleaning because I was just like it just felt right.
Yeah.
So I've got a very strong opinion on if it's in the blood.
Well, there you have it. Brad Giles, the book Bigger Isn't Better, Better is Better. We'll put a link in the YouTube show notes and in the podcast show notes. Grab yourself a copy and think of 1 or 2 things after today that you can implement into the coming years in your business. And let's have better businesses. And thank you so much, Brad, for coming on This Is Business.
Thank you, Glenn. It's been a great chat.
Thanks.
Any advice is general financial advice only, which does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Because of that, you should consider if the advice is appropriate to you and your needs before acting on the information. If you do choose to buy a financial product, read the Product Disclosure Statement, PDS, and Target Market Determination, TMD, and obtain appropriate financial advice tailored to your needs. Simo Interactive Pty Ltd, the publisher of this podcast, and Glenn James are authorised representatives of Money Sherpa Pty Ltd, which holds financial services license 451289. Opinions or comments from any guests on the podcast are theirs and not those of the host or the publisher or their respective license holders.